Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a fantastic day, taking a look here at Solana, seeing what's going on. I want to start by saying thank you to all my Solana followers or community. We saw a good chunk of views this weekend. In fact, that's a pretty good amount there. Basically 82 likes and only one thumbs down. Pretty awesome stuff. Again, mainly just want to say thank you and welcome to those 29 new members who are watching our Solana videos now. So deeply appreciate that feedback, the follow, and of course just amazing comments too. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate you. So let's take a quick look here at this situation here. First of all, descending trend line was supposed to bullishly backtest here. But instead lost that support and continued lower. You do have to recognize though, however, Bitcoin had a pretty significant struggle this weekend where it had a slight rally back up to about 98K, but that low volume didn't really hold. And we're seeing a lower low and lower high pattern for Bitcoin up until just now. Okay, so again, good stuff in the overall sense for Bitcoin, but that wasn't advantageous at all for Solana. So the question here is, I'm getting a lot, is this price going to hold this level or not? The truth is you want to give this range a chance to hold. The likelihood of it holding is higher based on the simple fact that this range that we entered into for a double bottom, by the way, which is more likely to continue higher than lower, has this nice little solid support range here based on a previous candle wick and candlesticks that closed there on the 4-hour time frame in that 222 to 225 range as a rough estimate. So just know we have a decent amount of support here in this area. We lose this area, different story altogether. We can have a different conversation. A lot of it hinges on Bitcoin too. If Bitcoin cannot just go sideways and up, then Solana is going to keep going sideways and down, right? That's just kind of the way that it works. We had this rising wedge here that played out the way that we expected with the price pulling back over the weekend. So all this stuff is kind of standard. The only difference here is that we didn't bounce off 238. So we can presume that that local high, basically this local low and or local high, these are going to be resistance ranges for us. So 231 to 238 is the new resistance range for Solana. That's kind of the gist there. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at the data here on the back end first before I make any conclusions and just quickly understand where we're at. We're going to also quickly look at the monthly and weekly timeframes too. While they're not super massively telling, most weekly and monthly timeframes are bullish right now. We just want to double check those things. Okay, so let's look at the back end here first. The last 7 days, we can see majority of that liquidation at 232 to 230 got hit. That was the expectation we talked previously. That's a strong likelihood it's going to work as a magnet. Now that we still at that level, maybe 250 is the next target, right? We don't want to presume that just based on liquidation, but that would be the next heavy concentration. And of course, we got about 265 as well, secondary to that. So that's where we're at there. Let's quickly double check the 12-hour. Just to kind of see where we're at here first. We can see there's still some liquidation left up towards about 234. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the price continue just a little bit higher before it pulls back. Take a look here, of course, at the back end data here for Solana. Let's go ahead and lower this here so we can just see a little more data. We can recognize that we have a pretty significant amount of shorts in play, which makes sense. I side with that. Shorting Solana right now just does seem a little bit more sensible based on a macro, or more so the more local range, if you will. We might be bottoming out though in that low 220 range. So please understand shorting past that level may be a bad idea until we actually break through that, right? We want to break through a support before we short into it, because the simple fact that you don't want to be a breakout trader in this market. It's not really the greatest thing. Anyways, conversation for another day. Quickly look here, we can see with liquidation open interest, we can recognize that 240 is that heaviest concentration here locally. That's where most people have their position in the last 7 days of trading. Okay, so that tells us that that's a resistance range for us too. We can see that reflected here in the charts with that point of control / volume profile right there at 240. Okay, so moving forward, price recovers to 240, Bitcoin starts stalling out. I think that that's a solid consideration for a short from a bird's eye view right now. Monthly time frame, what are we looking at here? Well, truth is, the monthly time frame isn't looking terrible. It's not looking great. Last month we did close higher than the previous highest month at 210, which is good. And we can also see here, of course, significant bullish engulfing candle. When we look at the moving averages on the monthly, it's going to be super bullish. Same thing here as well with the RSI. Kind of rejected off 70 on the RSI. While people consider that to be a resistance range, I do too in a lot of ways. It doesn't mean the price can't still go higher or that you short into that. Okay, we have a significant amount of money flow, so there's a lot of money to sustain this price action. So I don't think we're going to see a tremendously lower price point below 200. for a while. Just again, since we've broken that threshold, that should be the new low. So we could very well see a retest of that level. That is roughly that monthly and daily closure at about 201, 202. So if the price doesn't end up pulling back, I'm thinking a worst case scenario would be the $200 mark. That'd be a solid consideration for a long, again, from the bird's eye view right now. Weekly time frame, same scenario here. Pretty much everything's pretty bullish. We are starting to see weekly divergences though on stochastic RSI on both Bitcoin, Solana, some other stronger coins too. Really just telling us that, hey, we hit this, a pretty significant uptrend. We hit, all-time highs, all that stuff. So it's important to recognize that we are coming back down at this point. With stochastic RSI, but the price doesn't necessarily have to come with it, right? Now it's kind of doing so, but once more we got that solid support at 200. So either way you look at it, this isn't like a short into this sign here. It's just kind of letting us know that we're losing momentum. We've been uptrending for a long time, and a natural pullback makes perfect sense. That's really all it boils down to. Nothing to read into specifically. Again, we got solid support here in the 200 range. If the price does continue lower, if we lose 220, I think 200 would seem sensible. We got to give 220 a chance to hold though first, okay? So let's take a look at the daily daily time frame, and I would recommend remembering that we do have a double bottom here, and that could very well be a potential pivot point for us, and the price may recover from here. A lot of it hinges on Bitcoin, and if we do take a look at Solana's chart versus Bitcoin's chart, Solana's pulling back a lot harder than Bitcoin is, and that's not really a good sign either, okay? So even though we are coming into a support level, what's Solana going to do when Bitcoin retraces? If it does to, you just say, mid 95, 96K range, we'll probably see this area lost, okay? Because again, you can only test a certain level so many times, but it held like a champ here so far, so we got to give that a chance to hold. Daily time frame, we're getting closer to 50 on the RSI. We lose 50 on the RSI, it's also a cause for concern. Again, that's just basically the relative strength letting us know that we're not in good shape to be able to sustain this price action. Money flow index is below the RSI. I don't love that. That generally shows weakness. If we do look, for example, at Bitcoin, it's starting to taper off, but it's not a significant disparity. When we see that drop, it's a pretty solid consideration for a short. And obviously the inverse applies too when we get closer to 30 on the RSI and 20 on the money flow index. We'll talk about that later if we get there. For right now, we're seeing a lot of shifts in momentum here. While Bitcoin's still maintaining above its 20-day SMA, Solana is not, right? So we can presume that that's going to be a resistance range. So once again, that reinforces that 240 range as a potential resistance for us if the price does end up recovering to that level, okay? I think we're going to see some resistance at 238 to 240 if we get back in, we reclaim that area. And if obviously we retest 220, it might be a consideration for a short. Between now and then, I feel like we've overextended ourselves a little bit. It doesn't make a ton of sense to open a short right now, but that's based on the predication that I feel that Bitcoin should be able to break its descending little trend here and continue higher with a close above 97K today. That would give us more control to basically close above the point of control rather, showing the bulls are in control. Okay, so again, there's that, plus a ridiculous amount of liquidation at 100,000 still for Bitcoin. It would make sense for us to see a sweep at that level here still. Again, we don't want to attach ourselves to that mindset that we're still bullish on Bitcoin, but most factors are showing that it's still in good shape, minus some momentous indicators to the downside. And again, momentum, as we all very well know, doesn't matter too much in crypto. Support and resistance ranges are probably the bigger thing here. Specifically also trend lines too, which, by the way, I'll post a playout chart here soon to kind of reflect the descending trend that we're seeing here. And it's pretty obvious that Solana is in a downtrend and you don't want to try to take a long into that. Anyways, daily time frame, pretty bearish in the overall sense here, okay? All right, so again, I'll clean up the charts. I'll post a playout chart in our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. But we can see here, of course, that this descending trend, the 20-day SMA and the 50-day SMA, they're running concurrent with it. That reinforces that resistance and the fact that you do not want to take a long into this coin. However, just say, for example, Solana were to recover, okay, come up here to 238 and hang out in the 240 range. That would be a cause for consideration for a long, potentially. Obviously, we want to look at other things. But if we get there, that might be a good consideration for a long based on the simple fact that we're breaking this descending trend line. We'd be naturally above those moving averages. Okay, so just some food for thought. For right now, it's still too premature to consider a long. We're also in this sweeter spot here. Generally speaking, you're going to see a bounce when the RSI hits 30 and the money flow index hits 20. We've kind of already seen that, so that ship has sailed, so to speak. But at this point here, it definitely looks like we are still very, very bearish. We could even be beginning to start a bear flag. This is a very common thing when the price action breaks down like this. It starts to establish higher highs and higher lows, and then inevitably breaks down once, obviously, Bitcoin were to start pulling back, which it is. Okay, so again, unique turn of events, but I would hold to your guns. If you have a short position open, it makes a lot more sense to kind of keep that open. And obviously, until we break this descending trend, it doesn't, like a long is just a high risk. It's too high a risk. It's not really a sensible way to trade right now. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the hourly and then quickly call it here. Let's go ahead and get this guy over here and kind of go from there. So hourly time frame, last thing we want to confirm here is Ichimoku Cloud. This is something that's kind of a, near and dear to my heart. It definitely works very well for taking trades with confirmation. And at this point, everything's pointing down, letting us know that either a short right now is mildly sensible. I don't necessarily recommend it because I feel like we're at the bottom. And we have a lot of support here at 220. But once again, this is showing that further downside is probable. Again, a lot of that is based on Bitcoin here. But if you look at this, look at how poorly Solana bounced and recovered, this little guy here, versus this recovery from Bitcoin. Okay, it's a pretty significant uptrend for Bitcoin and not an uptrend for Solana. And look how hard it's pulling back compared to Bitcoin too. Again, when you look at coins, you want to try to compare them to Bitcoin and see how they're performing. So at this exact moment, Solana is extremely bearish and it's more likely to go down than up. It's just really the bottom line. Okay, so I would not be just blindly taking along because you feel like 220 is a good area of support. Generally, it is best practice to buy at support, but again, there's a lot of different factors involved here, folks. So it just depends on how you want to trade. Obviously, if you're a long-term trader, I would just wait for some confirmation, add to your spot bags, of course. I think 220 to 200 range is a solid support range for the next potential leg up. Between now and then, though, we will see a lot more bearish continuation, and to take a long until we pass this threshold of 240 doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would consider a long at 240, and then of course between now and then, short makes a lot more sense in the overall situation here. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Sorry if I went in circles, but I just like to kind of reaffirm and reiterate a few things. So I'll post our playout chart here shortly. Keep in mind we do have a lot of liquidation in this range up here, so that could still come to pass. And if it does, we'll be mindful of that. But in the meantime, I hope that you learned something today. And if you want to become, again, a better trader, CryptoCash.tech is a site. Link down below. We've got a lot of new traders coming over. Quick congrats to our community too as well. We saw some really nice profits from HBAR this weekend, 84%. And what we hit also Tau, if I'm not mistaken, at 71%. We're in a Bitcoin long right now. So far, it's looking pretty good. But again, that can definitely change. Take a look here, of course. ADA, BNB, and XRP is our day trading bot's favorite so far. So a lot of good little trades coming through there. And most of those are longs, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. All right, folks. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks again so much for your time. We'll see you next one. Take care.